What's going on? This is your man John Fortune, your host of the Frustrated Fan Sports Show, and today we got to talk about it. You know, normally this is my comment show, but a lot of stuff has been going on these past couple days. So I'm going to collapse my comment show for the next video that I do. So for this video, we're going to focus on a lot of stuff that that has transpired since the game. One being the fact of the announcement that Sam Howell will get the start in the last game of the season. The talk about Sam Howell's development. My apology to my man Cedric Moore. I gotta apologize to you because you are actually a Howell hopeful. You're not one of the Wentz people. So that was my bad because I called you out for that. But if I can remember, I think you're a Howell hopeful. So that was my fault. But other than that, y'all, we really got to get into it. So let's start off from the beginning. Ron Rivera coming out and saying he was focused on the game and everything like that. And some of the comments he made in his press of the day, he seemed like he was actually a man humbled for once. It seems like he understood what happened to him and his team and where his failures was. Again, Ron has failed as a head coach. He's failed as a personnel guy. And he's also failed the team because, again, there were times where he could have taken the reins, especially reined in Scott Turner and not listened to Scott so much, because the reason we're in quarterback purgatory is because of Scott. Scott's history has been that. Even, you know, I always go back to his time in Carolina, but I never talk about his time in Minnesota as well, when he was the quarterback's coach. You know, understand that even the quarterbacks then started to get old, because if I can remember, they had young Teddy Bridgewater, they had Matt Castle, and they had Christian Ponder. And I think before then they had somebody else who was like an older quarterback as well. But again, Scott Turner has a history of not developing guys. So even when it came to Sam Howell and, you know, to talk about Sam not being ready, I was one of the people that told you he was not ready. But at this point now, he's had a full season to sit on the bench and at least gain some knowledge to make a transition for himself. I don't feel that this one game will actually explain or say if he's the future at quarterback, but there's nothing wrong with looking into it to see if there's a possibility and a chance that he could be something more. But again, this is where we run into our problems over and over again, because for some odd reason, Scott has gotten to a point at where he just doesn't develop guys. He doesn't develop quarterbacks at all. Like I said, in Minnesota, he was the quarterback's coach. He had Teddy Bridgewater. He had Christian Ponder. Y'all see what happened there? Even with the fact that he did have a relationship with Teddy Bridgewater and he didn't try to find a way to see if he could get Teddy Bridgewater here. A lot of people here don't like Teddy Bridgewater, but there's a reason why it seemed like a lot of quarterbacks are avoiding coming here. What y'all don't understand is that the reason a lot of quarterbacks are avoiding coming here is because they all know that Scott Turner's offense is very complicated. Again, we're talking about, here we are now, Carson Wentz is the fourth quarterback. Yeah, it's the fourth quarterback who's complained about this offense and how complicated this offense was and seeing how awful he's been in it. So that's key number. That's one of the things that I had to bring out. Two, and I know a lot of people don't like to hear this, but we have to talk about Taylor Heineckie's pending free agency. I mean, I know that there's a lot of people that think that Taylor Heinicke is just going to be worth $15 million for 3 years. Now, yeah, he might be happy with that type of money, but understand that there were a lot of executives and a lot of coaches Taylor actually impressed in this season, and there are a lot of them that's actually going to be knocking at his door. Mainly some of the ones that run an offense that might be less complicated for Taylor and at the same time utilizes his skills well. You're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. They're going to need a backup quarterback. Taylor would actually complement Jalen Hurts in that backup role. So in actuality, Taylor would be the perfect backup for Jalen Hurts. You're talking about places like Chicago. He could go and back up Justin Fields in Chicago. Baltimore. If Tyler Huntley is gone, then they can definitely bring in Taylor Heinicke. I don't think that a lot of people understand. Hell, look at the Giants. I'm pretty sure if the Giants really wanted to see about the possibility of Daniel Jones, who better than to have Taylor Heinicke back him up? Not only that, he's the perfect playbook. He would be the playbook for another team playing us without needing a physical copy of the playbook. So for everybody that feels that Taylor isn't going to have a market, you're vastly insane. There are a lot of teams that actually are looking at Taylor. The reason why is because I actually look at some of the other people who actually talk about their teams. And Atlanta, where Kyle Smith is, some of their people are talking about Taylor Heinicke. Again, like Jacksonville, there are people in Jacksonville actually talking about Taylor Heinicke. So in actuality, most people don't understand how big this market for Taylor's actually going to be. The benefit we have is that the familiarity that he has here. So again, as much as many of y'all feel that, oh, Taylor can just sign for 3 years, $15 million, there might actually be teams willing to give him 2 years, $20 million. So again, don't think that even for the slightest of moments that just because Taylor is familiar with the offense and things like that, that he wouldn't jettison somewhere else, especially if the offense is less complicated and it utilizes his skills a little bit more. I wouldn't be surprised. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if by chance we happen to see Taylor Heinicke down in Miami due to the fact that Taylor is more gets hurt less than Tua. Not only that, you're talking about Taylor is actually good for 6 games. So you don't think that Miami would love a Taylor Heinicke backing up Tua? Telling y'all, I mean, and not only that, that particular offense would utilize Taylor's mobile ability. So again, as much as everybody wants to sit up here and think that it's just a sweet thing and Taylor knows us and all that and he's willing to come back, I don't know. He's not Kyle Allen. You know what I'm saying? He's not Will Greer. He's not even Teddy Bridgewater. He's actually better. And not only that, a lot of teams have gotten the opportunity to see him. And they actually do believe in him, especially some of the coaches. Because again, I look at a lot of these other people who talk about their other teams. And a lot of them talk about Taylor Heinicke. You would be absolutely surprised at how many of them talk about Taylor Heinicke. I wouldn't even be shocked if by chance we happen to see Taylor Heinicke even in Tampa Bay. Like I said, don't sleep on Taylor's market because it might be bigger than you think. Cole Holcomb, what do we do with him? Cole Holcomb, again, he was injured this year. I'm actually going to revisit my top 10 on what would convince me during the season. Again, a lot of the top 10 that I had on that list seems to have failed, but one of the problems was the linebacking core, and Cole Holcomb is a free agent. We're not changing his defense. What do we do now? What do you do now that Cole Holcomb, is he good enough to let walk? I mean, is he good enough to pay him a significant amount of money, or is he just good enough to say, we can find a replacement? Because again, you're talking about, Ron could have done a good job in the draft in regards to linebackers, and he didn't do a good job at all. I mean, other than Jamin Davis, which again, when he was drafted, he was supposed to be our middle linebacker. Jack and Ron just didn't do a good job with bringing in the linebackers. You would have thought that they would have tried the veteran path to some solid linebackers in free agency, but no. They wanted to do that with the quarterback, and it didn't work out. So, again, that's one of those things. Another thing, we lose this game, we will actually be drafting 10th overall. We win this game, we will be drafting 15th or 18th overall. That is a huge fall from 10th to 18 to possibly 18. All we need to do is lose this game. And I understand that Ron may want to win because he doesn't want the stigma of being consistent at 7 wins. Third season, 7 wins. He doesn't want to have that stigma, but he has no choice at this point. He has no choice. And I said it after the game, I said that Ron needs to resign. If Ron is not going to resign and he's just going to either wait to be fired or wait for his contract to expire or whatever, because we don't really know how many years he got on his contract. But let's just say if he's waiting to be fired. What Ron should do this upcoming draft is do the Commanders a favor on his way out. And that's draft for our future. Like, his ego should be out of the way enough so he can sit up there and say, you know what? It didn't work out for me, but maybe it'll work out for the next guy. Which means he goes into the draft and drafts a very top quality linebacker. He goes in the draft and drafts a really solid and what could possibly be the future at quarterback. He goes out there and he signs and he drafts offensive linemen that is going to work. There are things he needs to do. He goes out and he drafts a cornerback, a good top level cornerback. That's what Ron can leave as a legacy. Because again, it's so funny at how when I used to talk about this and how I used to say it all the time, I was always like, look guys, Ron ain't the best guy to be dealing with. So when it comes down to it, you have to understand that at the end of the day, Ron has made tons and tons of mistakes. Tons of them. And in the process of making mistakes, he never corrected his mistakes. And like I said, I was telling you guys over and over and over again. And I remember how a lot of y'all used to be mad at me. Here he is. Who cares about a frustrated fan and all this type of stuff? And Ron is just here. Ron's playing. I believe in Ron. Ron is the best and all this type of stuff. And I just kept saying, hey, look, y'all. I kept feeling like the friend at the wedding that's like, you really want to marry her? You sure you want to marry her? I mean, understand, we're not talking about anybody. We're talking about her. You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't matter how many things I pointed out. Everybody was just on board with it. It was like, hey, look, she's like not the nicest person. But I still love her. Yeah, but you know she don't treat your kids that well. But I love her. Well, you know she smashed the homies, right? But I love her. And then finally now, everybody sees what I'm talking about with Ron. Everybody sees what I'm talking about with Scott and this coaching staff. Don't get me wrong. There are some bright spots on this coaching staff. John Matskow wasn't given a lot of talent this year. And that was some cold stuff for Ron to do, to not give what is possibly one of the better offensive line coaches no talent this year. Drew Terrell did a fantastic job with the receivers. In fact, I think he's the next offensive mind that is going to be a top level coach as his career keeps going, because he was doing just as much coaching as Ron was. There were times where you saw in the game where he was guiding a lot of the receivers and things like that. He was actually doing a lot of coaching this year. Chris Harris, his secondary wasn't the sharpest, but again, he wasn't given a lot of talent on that end either. So like I said, Ron, a lot of y'all have now seen what I've been talking about with Ron for the longest. And you're now seeing that, yeah, he wasn't the best coach. He wasn't the best general manager. Like I said, from the onset, his very first press conference, he came back, he gave us inconsistent messaging from the very beginning. And everybody just wanted to not pay it any mind. But again, like I said, our season is done with. We got this last game against Dallas. We have not. The fact that Dallas has something to play for, and we have nothing to play for, it's a heartbreaking thing, because even though I predicted this team winning 7 games, I mean, early, like, I don't know how many of y'all remember in my season prediction show, which I'll put a link in the description below, I told you guys that we were only going to win 7 games. And I was looking at the thing, but it was on the basis of Carson Wentz starting. And guess what? Carson Wentz plays 7 games and practically, and basically in reality, only wins 2 real games. You know, he only wins 2 games. So, yeah, this was the most disappointing season we've ever had. And it's not only disappointing, it's also demoralizing, because there were so many things and so many options and so many different ways Ron could have went, and he chose not to. So in reality, Ron let us down as the fans. He let the organization down. He let a lot of people who was believing in him down. Me, on the other hand, I didn't believe him as much. I kind of felt this was going to happen. But again, he also let his players down. They were expecting to go in. And as much as people don't think that Taylor brought that energy, Terry McLaurin didn't have no energy in that game. And you saw Terry not happy to be in that game. You really did see him not happy to be in that game. But y'all tell me what y'all think about some of the topics that I brought up. Y'all let me know how y'all feel. Do y'all feel that this was not only a disappointing season, but a demoralizing season? Y'all tell me. Like I said again, my next video that's going to be coming up, I'll probably do it on Friday. I'm going to do my comment show, so I can do that. I'll double up on the comments that from this show and from the last video, so y'all can sit up there, so I can get all y'all in there, because again, the fans are the most important thing, and I appreciate you all. Other than that, this has been your man John Fortune, and this has been the Frustrated Fan Sports Show.